My name is Margaret Christakos, and I am the author of Her Paraphernalia on Mother Lines, Sex, Blood Loss, and Selfies. This book really began with my mother's illness. She had a stroke, which really impaired her language. And we had had a very lively conversational relationship before that illness. And it was one of the first times where I had to navigate communicating with her in a way that was more embodied, that didn't rely on the distance that language creates between bodies. I also turned 50, and it happened to coincide with my daughter becoming 15, and my sense of interest in both of my grandmothers who had made their way to Northern Ontario at the age of 15 with different immigration stories, but I started to be able to imagine their lives through my daughters a little bit more deeply. Well, I don't think I knew it would be called memoir until about 3 months ago. It was a form of writing that emerged to meet the set of circumstances I was entering. And I think it relates to my work because that has always been my practice, to find the form that writing has to take in relation to particular projects and particular new forays into new subject matter. So the form really was mysterious, actually, and I also went through quite a long period of not really being able to write or having a very changed relationship to writing, in some way that paralleled Mum's very changed relationship to speech. There was a very close connection between the sense of being impaired, I think. And in fact, some of the book is poetry. The book includes several sections that look like poems and that are poems, and they interrelate to the other prose sections of writing by calling up, I guess, calling on the poetic in the kind of time sense that one has in a poem, alongside the more narrative energy of some of the prose writing. Well, intergenre simply means moving between genres or forms, and again, it's a way to categorize writing that doesn't seem to fit squarely into any one thought process about what writing is or how writing engages a reader. I became very active as a cell phone photographer over the last 4 or 5 years, and some of that started with the opportunity to travel to Britain and Greece to go to the villages my grandmothers had come from. And I needed a way to document that travel, and I needed a way to accompany myself. And suddenly, photography seemed like a really interesting medium. So that's one of the genres that I started to occupy. And I started to create a kind of dialogue about this travel through social media while I was traveling. So the photography and the social media posting about what I was experiencing was a form of reporting on the excursion, but it was also a way of maintaining contact with my kids, and in particular my daughter. The book is largely directed to my daughter. So there's a sense of asking questions about femininity and identity and appearing as a woman, and having a sense of oneself in the world as female. That became a conversation I was having with her. at the same time as I was trying to have that conversation with my grandmothers and other women that I realized I was actually connected to through that. I feel really committed to the book now, and it's the way I've negotiated privacy in the book, and the way I've negotiated the exposures that I make. Right up front, we hear that there's something about sex, blood loss, and selfies. We hear that there's the self looking at the self, but we also hear about how I'm writing about the body. I'm writing about menstruation. I'm writing about menopause. I'm writing about the kind of hot flash and cold flash of a woman at 50 who decides, wearing a lot of layers is the way to actually be in the world. And I'm writing about the shame that we carry around having emotion and being set up to be the bearers of emotion, as if in our culture there's a kind of lack that we embody when we carry our emotion. And I was trying to find my way into accepting the depth of emotion I was going through as my mother was dying, as my sense of growing older became apparent to me, as my marriage was ending. There were a lot of failures that seemed to be happening at the same time. At the same time and through the same process, I was making a lot of decisions about how it was fair to write about the material that belongs to me in relation to my mother's life and my grandmother's lives. I was thinking about what it was ethical for me to share, and near the back of the book, in the last section, there's a little visual that says, then there were all the things I wouldn't dream of telling you, and that it's sort of cheeky, but it's also a kind of signifier of the discretion with which I have actually chosen all of the exposures in the book. So yes, there's private and somewhat risky content to some of the exposures, but I've made all of those gestures very intentionally. And I've tried to write about experiences that remain even after decades of feminism. More than decades, centuries really, but in particular decades of feminism that have claimed to sort of liberate the female body from shame. I think that is not the case at all, and even writing about having sex, having an affair, having ecstasy, desiring, just desiring sensation, and being in just being in the body seemed like it still seemed like a very brave thing to be writing about, even though, I was part of, feminist writing culture in Canada from the 80s on. I still found that there was a lot of new material that doesn't actually get written about that much when it comes to women who are in our 50s, all of the life changes that are occurring at that particular point. I found it was an incredibly interesting process of moving from the way I had always thought to exist in a photograph, which was to be picturesque, to smile, to be cordial, to be happy in photographs. And I found that the intimate relationship I developed with myself taking pictures of myself over the course of some very, very difficult times was to allow my own self-recognition around just being who I am, being in ambient time, being in that sort of shifting sense of day, night, alone with others, feeling good, feeling awful. It really multiplied my sense of allowing a full range of selfness. Yeah, Her Paraphernalia emerged one summer afternoon where I was sitting at the lake in Sudbury, and I was trying to write through. Really, it was the month before my mother died, so it was really at the very end of that process. And my marriage was over, and I was, for the first time, really, really absorbing what all of those changes and losses were meaning to me. And I came across a dictionary definition of paraphernalia. You know how sometimes you come across a word that you see all the time, and then you like, what is that word, paraphernalia? And when I looked it up, I realized that it actually was, this gift, this little perfect word, because it refers. The etymology of the word refers to what a woman owns, what a married woman owns apart from her own dowry. So I realized that for me, I was trying to figure out what was my own, apart from who I was as a daughter, apart from who I had been as a wife. And who I was as an artist, who had chosen at many, many points over, 35-year writing practice, not to follow the money, to follow writing as a life. And what we end up with in this life is quite different than the life we'd have if our values were placed somewhere other. So there was a kind of inventory I was going through of who am I? What is it to exist in this stage of my life? What belongs to me? I really hope that the book opens itself to new readers that perhaps haven't been part of the experimental poetry community. I think this book makes some spaces for other women who are thinking about issues of identity and feminism and ancestry, locating themselves in relation to settler heritage. And so thinking about privilege and thinking about the body in this age where we are so objectified. We're so deeply objectified through our technology as well. That I'm hoping that readers come to the book who want to think about what it is to be a woman, what it is to encounter these major life themes at the same time. So you see yourself in several mirrors. So you see yourself. You see your body and your face. You face your body and see your face. You see yourself in mirrors, in washrooms, in airports. You have a look that seems squirrely. You look at yourself and appreciate how bad the lighting is. You look at your eyes, at your cheeks. You see a wide silver realm of mirror all around your little head. Do you exist? How old are you? How many years have you been here? Is this the first time you have arrived? Is it reasonable to think that Virginia Woolf examined herself every fortnight or so in a mirror and thought, crap, I'm huge and shimmering? What did she look like at 15? Everyone is 15 at some point, unless they go down like a tragic consumptive. I was 15 once. I looked in the mirror and thought I was small and that I was required to smile whenever anyone looked at me or when I looked upon myself. You look attractive when you smile, so that is one way to be in an airport. Keep grinning and you'll remember your youth. Here in England, it is almost noon. In my body, it is 6 a.m. It is 6 a.m. Am I 15? Would I wake up for school soon, if so? Did Nanny like to go to school and in her room was there a mirror? Did she take her photo to let her girlfriends know what outfit she was wearing that day? Did she post herself on the public internet? Why can't I get online here at Heathrow fucking Airport 2012? Get real. Am I real? Clea, are you stirring yet, and will you count the morning in your mind's eye to yourself? Here is the first day my mother was gone from me for her writing trip. I am alone. I have my girlfriends, my aunts, my other relatives. I have my teachers and my Facebook page. I have 600 friends. I have a huge shimmering head in the middle of a small blue frame. I am up to the challenge. I am 15 and I exist. Are you awake as yet, and have you Googled to see if she exists? She had a few thoughts of your face, your cheeks, and top lip. She begins to recognize that maybe you have forgotten her for a moment, yet you love that she exists. Is love a forgetting?